human perspective.
Welcome to Unbiased and On the Fence. I'm Shane. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this wonderful Monday evening after the conference. And boy, am I wiped out. Now, I tell you what, this is going to be a fun show. I've been looking forward to it. Today, we bring back Buddhist author von Galt to share the ancient Buddhist perspective on how we transition to the intergalactic golden age of humanity. Von will talk about the Starseed alien ambassador QHHT hypnosis cases she gets, Buddhist perspective on Mandela Effects, awakening, ascension, and getting over our third dimensional drama so we can transition peacefully to our juicy fifth dimensional reality. She will explain how the Earth is moving further into a parallel reality that exists in the fifth dimension. Her Hmong-Buddhist indigenous beliefs speak of a time when we switch from the cycle of separation into the new cycle of unity consciousness, which ushers Earth into the golden age of humanity with an interstellar future. What is this probable interstellar future that ancient tribes worldwide waited a long time to welcome in? And what can we everyday people do to help accelerate with the pace of Earth's fifth dimensional Merkabah? Let's lift off. Welcome back, Ron.
It's gonna lift off into the vortex.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you again for having me up on the show. Again, I love the community, the Mandela Effect community, my peoples.
Yep.
Such an open mindset for, different ways to love and live in the fifth dimension energy. So, we actually we're actually going to kind of change it up a little bit.
Yep.
The
Right.
agenda.
Because I asked Vaughn, I told her because a lot of us have a rich Christian background and we love the teachings of Jesus, and we've come to realize that he wasn't wanting us to worship him. He was trying to teach us how to live, right? And then as we kind of move and let go of all the religious stuff, we can come to find out more about Jesus. And that's where I'm so thrilled that you can bring us the Buddhist perspective on who you guys call Yeshua ben Joseph. That is Jesus, son of Joseph. Translate it loosely, right?
Right. So this is very old Buddhist records about a man called Yeshua ben Joseph. And I'm just going to tell the story of Yeshua ben Joseph, and it's a wonderful story that's been added to the Akashic record and the canon that the universe creates. And this story is a Buddhist story. It's been documented in many scrolls and traditions outside of Buddhism as well to further back up. And it's actually backed up by the government of India themselves, that back up all these facts in all these scrolls and different texts. So if you want any evidence that this person ever existed in history, there is physical evidence, but it's not what you've been told.
And it's not where you've been told either,
It's
because
not where
you guys have better documentation, historical documentation than we actually have in the West, don't you?
Mm-hmm. So the thing is, there's a very old tradition. So Buddhism, just some background for people who are not familiar with me, just really quick. So obviously I'm von Galt, and I'm an author, and I write a lot of books and things that I love. And writing is my meditation. Aside from that, I'm a normal working mom of 2 children, and I have a wonderful husband. And I write as meditation to kind of get away from my IT job in the daytime. And one of the things that I love to write about is metaphysics. And so I learned about consciousness and Mandela Effects, manifesting your parallel reality, with my Merkabah through studying Tibetan Buddhism growing up. And for the last 20 years, I have been following the works of prominent monks like the Dalai Lama and many other prominent Buddhist monks and nuns that would go out and participate in academia in the West and around the world to find out if the stuff that we've been studying for almost 2,600 years actually will match up to the science. How much of it is still accurate, how much of it needs to kind of get clarification on, because it's all about science-based living, and Buddha says test this out to find for yourself so that you know firsthand how your consciousness creates reality. So all those quotes of what you perceive, you receive, all of that, it's all about talking about your Mandela effects and parallel realities. And so I spent the last 20 years studying all the different science in mindfulness, consciousness, meditation, metaphysics. And in the last 20 years, all that research that I just found fascinating for myself and fun to see any new material that comes through, it actually birthed out a book which I wrote and published. And the book is called Buddhist Mandalas, Explore Parallel Realities with Sacred Geometry, which actually, you guys, Amazon allows me to give away my books for free for 5 days during the promo to kind of help the rankings in their bookshelf. And that book right now is free. It's set for free until July 1st, 2020. So go to Amazon, type in my name, Von Galt, VONGALT, and pull up that book, and the ebook version is free as a download once you get into your account. If another way is to just click on the hyperlink for my name, and that will pull up my full author page, and you can find and get that book that way as well.
Okay,
So
that's down below, you guys. It says Von's author page. If you click that link, that'll take them right to the Amazon page, right?
exactly. So
Okay,
just go there. The ebook is free. The print book is beautiful.
it
And
is.
forgive me for any kind of conversion transcription with Create Space. The tool does not always work beautifully when they translate between platforms. So, but most of it is really good. So, so it is free right now. So don't miss out. And studying sacred geometry will help rewire your consciousness to a fifth dimensional level. Um, so now let's get into the fifth dimensional talk. Okay.
Right.
So I'm going to tell a story that comes from the Buddhist canon that we don't tell very much to people in the West because, we respect, one of the things is we respect everyone's chosen incarnation and the pre-life plan because we really believe in soul planning and reincarnation. And everybody in the Buddhist perspective believes that they plan certain elements for their own spiritual growth and for their own soul's amusement. So we respect that. And so many Buddhists do not talk about Yeshua ben Yosef because it is such a controversial figure in the religious traditions of the West. But for us, he is one of the many students that we have in our monastic systems that have been very successful in reaching nirvana and Buddhahood. So one of many.
Mm-hmm.
So in my book, Buddhist Mandalas, they typically have the master teacher, or what you call Buddha. They typically have two halos, one halo around the head and one halo around the body. And what you would call your aura field or your chakras or whatever fields or energy words you want to use. But we call them your Buddhist mandala. In Hinduism, they call it your Sri Yantra. In Zen, they would call it your yin yang, and just on and on. And all that science to prove that is documented in that book, Buddhist Mandalas. So, so what this basically is it is your Merkabah. Okay, it's your Merkabah. So even Merkabah translated is Mer means light, Ka means spirit, and Ba means body. So your Merkabah is your spirit's light body. And everyone has a unique one, just like snowflakes. Everyone's Merkabah is unique. And you can go to a website. It's called Sound Made Visible, soundmadevisible.com. And that website has they did a lot of sound research for medicine to try to find sound healing for medicine and other things. And now they offer it to the public where you can record your voice, or anybody can record the voice or the dog's voice or anything, send it to the website. And I think it's $150 for the printout, and they will print out what your Merkabah looks like. So you can actually see what your Merkabah looks like. And the very advanced souls that are very high consciousness, very high energy, very spiritually evolved, have very dense, very complex and beautiful Merkabahs. The younger souls who are lower frequency, it's not so much. So, you can actually see this scientifically that you have a Merkabah. All right. So I preface that to get into Yeshua ben Yosef. Okay. So in the Buddhist tradition, we have these monasteries, and these monasteries are actually universities. And for a very long time, and still today, the Buddhist monasteries offer free education to anybody who wants to learn metaphysics, to learn, to read and write, anything at all, to learn energy healing through the dankas and any other modality that's offered, to learn kung fu, anything. So these Buddhist institutions, all these students are what they call scribes, and they typically write down their knowledge that they get from the tradition, and there's a lot that's added into the canon. And we keep records of all the students because it is a school, okay? And one of the records is from the Hemis Monastery in Hemis, Ladakh, India. It documents a student named Yeshua ben Yosef. So Yeshua is spelled Yeshuah, Yeshua, Ben, Ben, and then Yosef, Yosef. In the West, you would translate that as Jesus Benjamin Joseph. But his original name is Yeshua ben Yosef. And in our documents, we have this student that was enrolled from 13 to 28 years old. He was enrolled in a monasteries, okay? And
That happens to be when he disappeared, huh?
yeah. You don't have any record of that in your books.
Well, I mean, I think he's 12 years old, and then like he's 30. It's like a big gap in his life. So now we're filling in that gap, you guys. This is cool. And you know what? It actually, to me, my understanding of Jesus now, this great master teacher, healer, person that really had it figured out and could do all these miracles. This, to me, explains why. I mean, he went and trained. He didn't just, bam, he's, just magic all of a sudden. This is something that he was born to do that, but he actually, it was a journey. It was a process.
It was a
process we all can do. And that's the important part of this whole thing.
Yes. And telling the story, the real story of Yeshua ben Yosef, shows how you can empower yourself within the matrix. So Yeshua ben Yosef studied metaphysics and energy healing in the Hemis Monastery. And then afterwards, as part of his training, because spirituality, nobody owns spirituality, and Buddhists know this. Nobody owns it. It can't be boxed. It can't be owned. And we just add to the canon. So as part of his Buddhist studies, he went off into northern China, and he studied with Zen Buddhism in that monastery, which is what you know now as Mahayana Tibetan Buddhism. So the scrolls up there have record of his attendance studying with the monks of Tibetan Buddhism in China. And then afterwards, he went back down and he studied with the yogis of India, and studied Hinduism, to kind of further understand the matrix and understand how to be a conscious creator, because everybody has nuggets of good stuff. So he studied, and people in the yogis in the area loved him. They gave him a nickname, and his nickname was Sananda. And Sananda is referred many times in Hindu texts as well about this energy healer from the West. And then after he studied with the yogis of India, he studied with the indigenous Muslims in the area. And this is before Muhammad, came through and took the indigenous beliefs of the Muslims there at the time, and they put it in the Quran. Ask Daddy. Go ask Daddy. I'm sorry. My mom job walked in.
It's
I'm
cool if
real.
you
I,
need
I tell people all the time. They don't believe me. I'm like, I'm real.
to.
Um,
We
any,
completely understand. I can hear my grandson in the background too. So it's life, and it's live.
yeah.
So let me interject while we're at this sort of break here. So is this something that's like kind of common knowledge to the East, and people just like, don't bring that up. That they really get upset if you start talking about this stuff. But like most
Nobody
people
wants
know.
any daggers. They don't want any like,
Right. I get it. I
you know,
totally get it. I totally get it. I
you,
don't blame them.
nobody wants any.
Right.
They don't want
Let's
fights.
just
They
get
don't.
along. Why
Yeah, they
bring
just want
that
to get
up? Don't
along.
bring
They're
that
like,
up.
you you explore parallel realities the way you want. I'll explore it the way you want. If
Yeah.
well, we're good.
Yeah.
So they just don't talk about it as
Right, but it's
much.
interesting to know, and I'm such a fan of Jesus. I want to know all about it. That's why when I
You want to
found out
know his
about,
whole life.
yeah, the Nag Hammadi text came out, and people are like, "That's not in the Bible," and I'm like, "But Jesus wrote it. I want to see what it says." You know what I mean? So,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So he studied with the indigenous Muslims in the area, and they loved him because he was offering energy healing, and he was a great guy. That they gave him a nickname, and his nickname was Isa, Issa, Isa. And Isa was mentioned in the Quran 33 times. So there's more record of
33, interesting.
Yeshua.
Yeah,
33. Yeah,
yeah.
master number. So, because he's a ascended master teacher who mastered the illusion of the matrix. So, anyways, he was mentioned in the Quran 33 times. And so there's another record in another tradition of the same man. And then, and the other thing I wanted to note too for this is prior to his birth, we have the tradition of toku children in Buddhism, and we just kind of wrap all ancient souls, old souls from the spirit world, souls who are what Dolores Cannon in her hypnosis and books call
Hmm.
star seeds, crystals, indigos. We just kind of wrap it all. In ancient
Hmm.
time, we call them toku children. And they're basically very, very advanced souls that have incarnated into Earth for their own reasons. And so, in Buddhism, when we go to geolocate like the new Dalai Lama or the new Karmapa or the new person that's going to take on that leadership position within the different monasteries and the traditions, um, the monks and nuns would go into gamma brainwave meditation, like high meditation. And when they go in there, they all try to geolocate this soul that is this high frequency soul that is meant to come in and help carry on the torch of their monastery. Okay, so they go to meditation and to try to geolocate in the world or in Asia, where is this soul going to be born? Where is this soul? And when they all geolocate that energy on the map, then they go there and they meet the child, and they ask the child questions that only the child would know. So let me give you an example. Like in current, and it still happens today. The Prince of Bhutan, Prince Jigme, he's a toddler. Um, he is a Toku child. They recognize something's happening with the royal family, and when he was about 2 or 3, when he started talking, they took him to a very, very old Buddhist temple that uh, a lot of the ancient stuff has already fallen apart. But this kid, they brought him over. He walked straight to this old area of the Buddhist temple, sat down, and said, "This is where my class was." And nobody told him, but that is exactly where they would teach the students back in ancient times. And then he would walk and he said, "This is where my teacher taught me." And that is exactly where they did those instructions. So this 2-year-old knew inside and out of this old temple that was like 700 years old and in decay because he had memory of it. So, these are Toku children. We wrap it all into one thing. So the reason why I bring up the Toku children story is because the Buddhist monks had this geolocated this Toku child in the West, and they went to his parents to pay him a visit because he was a ancient soul starseed. Okay, that have had many experiences in not only Earth but in many other lifetimes as well. So, so they went to visit his parents in the Middle East, what you would call the wise men, and they told his parents, when they're old enough, bring him to school, and we'll teach him everything about awakening, ascension, and returning to the Lord, returning to the Father, returning to nirvana, because that's the material that is available about this whole holographic game that souls play. And so when his parents, when he became about 13, his parents took him to the Hemis Monastery for his formal education in energy healing, in consciousness, and in metaphysics. After his education was done, he returned home, and he returned to the Middle East where he was originally from. And that's when all the Bible stories start. So I'm not going to go through the Bible stories. Everybody's learned all of them, and you can probably regurgitate them to me. But that's the Bible stories. But on the upcoming crucifixion, as it was really heating up, Buddhist monks went and found him and tried to get him to come back to his childhood monastery because it's getting really dangerous for you to be here, son.
Right.
You gotta go back. You gotta leave. But after his meditation, he decided to stick it out and stay with his friends and the woman that he loved. So
Was that Magdalene then, right? Is that who it was in your tradition? Magdalene
we
in your
don't
records?
have the name of who he married,
Okay.
but he married the person that he met there, and they stayed together.
Okay, so did he survive the crucifixion, or did he have someone take his place? Or I've heard a few different views on this, and there's evidence that I see that can support, that could be supportive of several things. So what do you guys say about it, or what does the tradition say?
So the records are fuzzy on this because it's not clear in Buddhist records if Yeshua, it was really Yeshua, or if it was a body double. But it is clear that whoever had it, they nursed him back to health.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Because
so
there's the twin, a lot of people know of as the twin, and a good friend of mine, Joseph Reyna, has done where it almost looks as if the twin took his place and swapped, and then of course they did. They revived him back to health or something.
yeah.
Along those lines.
See, that part is very fuzzy in the document, so we're not really sure. But somebody got crucified.
Right.
Yeshua, he did return. He gave up on the Middle East, and he returned back to his childhood monastery, kind of retreated back to the sanctuary of his childhood monastery. I went through this huge episode. I need some peace. So he went back to his childhood monastery, and the Buddhist records show that he lived in Kashmir until he was about 120 years old. That's the records. Now, that record could also be a cover because there are also records that show that he left toward Egypt and Europe. Okay, so that part is fuzzy.
So nobody. Okay, so I remember watching I don't know, Discover Channel or something, where they were like, we found this one grave. Most of the burials are from north to south, but we found one with a cross on it that was east to west, and they thought in this special on Discover Channel or something that it could be where Jesus was laid to rest ultimately, and it was in the far east. I can't remember where, but India or somewhere.
Yeah,
east.
most of this happened in India. So yeah, so that part is not very clear. I mean, the stuff that is very, very clear is when he enrolled in school.
Right, because of the records.
Because of the records of all the students that ever came through.
That's very cool.
And most of the scrolls in the monasteries are just records of students that went through enrollment records.
Wow.
So what you do outside of school in your personal life gets a little bit fuzzy. But we know he existed, and we know he went because he shows up in the Hindu text, he shows up in the Quran, so he shows up in Tibetan Buddhism texts as well.
Any word about him doing the mystery schools in Egypt at the at the pyramids and all of that? I thought he spent time
that
there.
falls off of our record. We know that he toured a little bit, so that
Oh,
falls
okay.
off our record. So we don't know
Okay.
that on his extracurricular activities.
Right.
So so anyways, his legacy was so memorable
Mhm.
that the Middle East politicians or Middle East priesthood, I call them politicians practically, but the Middle Eastern priesthood in his area of his original hometown, they fabricated Yeshua's story with ancient mythology. They also removed knowledge about the awakening process, the ascension process back to nirvana and to Buddhahood, and about Christ, how to achieve Christ consciousness. Okay, all the basic foundations of Buddhism when you get into the advanced studies. And in order to stay in power, they included concepts about separatism, fear, coercion, bribery, all these things into the canon. And so the only way that you reach salvation is through the church or through, somebody else. So, that really empowers you. So that's what they did with the material. What they
Which is
also,
understandable because somebody was actually asking, like, basically, why was it hidden? And I believe it was hidden in the West because it went against their whole control plan of controlling the people. They were just using Jesus to control the people, not to really get his message out. At least that's what I feel about it, because
yeah,
it's
they
all
took
about
out
controlling.
the basic principles about awakening, ascension, and how you can, manifest a better reality for
Right.
yourself. How you can change consciousness, how you can use consciousness to change reality, all the stuff that we talk about.
And it
So,
said, come to us. We'll take care of you.
yes, we are your only gateway.
Right.
You don't have any powers. You have no ability to create anything. So, anyways, I don't really want to go down that route because this is the
I would
exact
like to say
reason.
I would like to say that things haven't really changed much since Jesus was here. If you really think about it, I mean, even at his time, he called the religious leaders hypocrites for doing what they're doing now. So even if he was alive today, I think he'd still be hanging out with me and calling them hypocrites. I don't know. That's
You
just what I
probably, well,
think.
I mean, like the Vatican is one of the biggest ones, and they know about this because
Oh, they know. They got all those records underneath there.
most of the records, but you can't really go and do an aerial view for a long time. They have this ban that you can't do an aerial view of the Vatican because if you do that, and actually a lot of people have done it anyways and post it on the internet. If you look up the aerial view of the Vatican, it is designed around the wheel of Dharma, which is the Buddhist symbol for your wheel of Dharma, which is your journey through the life experience back home through Nirvana.
Hmm.
So it is designed based off the wheel of Dharma. It's right there in front of you, but you just, there's like, well, it's not to let people see. So, anyways,
Hidden in plain sight, like
hidden
everything
in
else.
plain sight. Hidden in plain sight. And
Thanks for telling me that. I'm going to check out some satellite images of it. That's cool.
yes. Look up the wheel of Dharma in Buddhism and look up the aerial view of the Vatican. It's the same. It's the same.
Okay.
So, anyways, the pineal gland and all that kind of stuff about awakening your third eye.
I've
That's
definitely
all
seen the
there
pine
too.
cone artwork that they have there. I mean, they clearly know about a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. So it's very fascinating. It's very fascinating how you can kind of touch on the truth, but kind of not.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, but that's what the Middle Eastern priesthood at Yeshua's time did. And what they also did further was they removed his Jewish lineage from his name. Okay, because names tell what culture you're from, what part of the world you're from, maybe kind of what status. Names actually say a lot about somebody's origins.
Mm.
And the name Jesus doesn't really have much of an origin. It's like, well, where's that from? And it's kind of fell out of somewhere. Well, his original name is Yeshua, Yeshua, Yeshua. And then what they did was they get rid of the Y and put a J name, so Jeshua. But they still had the H, so you can still link it to Judaism. So they're like, okay, let's cut the H off and make it Jesus. So instead of Yeshua, Jeshua, Jesus.
I got you.
Okay, so now he has a made-up name that is not tied at all to his Jewish lineage. And his real full name is Yeshua ben Yosef, Yosef. So, which sounds like, and is translated really as Jesus Benjamin Joseph, son
Gotcha.
of Joseph.
Right.
So anyway, so the name change, and that helped kind of remove that. And then they added this last name called Christ. And the Christ name is like, where's that lineage from? Where that just fell off the sky too? Where did
The
that
Christ
come from?
family, right?
The Christ family. Where's the Christ family? Where's the Christ
Right.
family? What's the Christ? Well, they added last name, but there's no explanation. Nobody knows the origin of the Christ family except Buddhism. And Christ is a word for your Christ consciousness. It is your crystalline consciousness. Okay, it actually originates from the word called the ancient word Kristala, which is Krystla, Kristala, crystalline consciousness, and that is a word for a couple of tones in semantics, which is ka, ra, sa, and la. And those are the 7 sacred geometry tones of creation in your Merkabah.
Wow.
Okay?
There it is. It's right all there.
It's right there. It's right. The leads are right there in front of you. Jesus Christ. So your Merkabah, which is your spirit's light body, your sacred geometry, your Buddhist mandala, your Sri Yantra, you name it. All the things that all the traditions have been, all these symbols they've been, bringing up that have all this knowledge is all talking about your Merkabah, your mandala, which everybody can get on soundmadevisible.com. I think it's so much fun. I love having fun with reality. So anyways, it is your Merkabah. And when you have your awakening, and it's a process, when you have your awakening and you work on your ascension process and raising your energy and your level of consciousness, you perfect that Merkabah. And like I said, in that website, Sound Made Visible, you can go and see how complex and how advanced your Merkabah is, because the more advanced spiritual people have more advanced Merkabah designs. And that Merkabah is the vessel in which your consciousness travels between multiverses and dimensions and different universes. It just travels the cosmos in that Merkabah. Okay.
Wow.
So Christ consciousness is short for your Merkabah, and it's a 5th dimensional energy that you can reach as well. So, and also in Islam, they shorten it to Hi'a, which means Allah. Allah inside you. God is inside everyone. Everyone is a spittle fractal of the universal one mind that lives inside everyone, sitting and waiting for you to have your awakening and ascension, so you can be a more conscious creator with the universe.
What did I mess up in your description? The Hmong, Hmong. How do you pronounce that?
It's just called Hmong.
Oh, okay.
It's a Hmong tribe of northern Laos.
Okay.
So that's your Merkabah. So, and we know in science the solfeggio hertz frequency,
Yeah.
like Ut is 396 hertz, Fa is 639 hertz, Re is 417 hertz, Sol is 741, Mi is 528, and La is 852. So, I bring this up because sound makes matter.
Mm-hmm.
And Buddhist monks know that sound makes matter because they've been working with those big,
Yeah.
instruments to and their chance to create certain frequency,
Right.
for energy healing, for levitation of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So so that's the basic idea of that. So going back to Yeshua, so um, there's a shrine in India called the Rosa Ball Shrine in Kashmir, India, and it's Yeshua's tomb. And when he passed away, they buried him according to a Jewish tradition of directions. And there's a rock carving of a man inside, with crucifixion wounds on his feet. Okay. Now, parts of Yeshua's family became Muslim,
Mm-hmm.
and the caretakers of Yeshua's tomb, the board of directors are made of Sunni Muslims. Okay, but they know that they have this Jewish guy that's in the tomb, that they revere and love, and it has been written 33 times in the Quran. Um, the thing is in Buddhism, because he sticks out, he's a Westerner that sticks out in the tradition, because
Right.
so kind of easy to kind of locate. But he, as many others in this tradition, overcome the infinite game and decide to go through the final doorway. He went through nirvana, and he returned back to be reabsorbed. He let go of his ego identity to stop playing the game, and he got reabsorbed with the consciousness of the one mind, or the oversoul, or the Lord, or the God, however you want to call it. And so he ends up in the ranks of the first Buddha, Gautama, or Siddhartha Gautama, Kuan Yin, Tara, Vishnu, Moses, and all these other avatars that went all the way up to Buddhahood, all the way up to like David R. Hawkins, the mental health doctor.
So he made it.
He
He
made it. He made it.
So now I gotta interject here because you don't have any Buddhists don't have any dog in the race, so to speak, to push Christianity or the hero of Christianity in such a way. You have no reason to talk about how he progressed through the whole thing and he did make it to be this wonderful human being, and to me that really says a lot because you're not really pushing any agenda. You're like, yeah, we know about him. Yeah, he sticks out to us. He stood out. This Jesus really is this character that before the internet, before we had a global communication system in place, was able to become like almost a household name on every continent. You know,
Yeah,
and that's pretty
yeah,
impressive. You know what I mean?
yeah. I do. It's really dense back then. It's really hard.
Yeah.
You know, people back then, and people of this area. I mean, Asia is pretty open-minded. We're like, oh, okay, just what you're gonna do. This is the game you're playing. All right, good luck
Right.
to you.
Right.
You're kind of okay, because we know,
Right.
this is your incarnation and this is part of your journey. And
And
if
that's
that's
not
what you're
wrong.
gonna do, then
Right.
I
That's
wish you
what
the
you're
very
doing.
best. Oh, it didn't work out. It stung. Yeah, I hope you learned your lesson.
Right.
so, so we're really easygoing about people's incarnations, and we completely respect. That's why we don't have missionaries. You don't convert anybody to spirituality, because spirituality is everything. It's
Right.
life. So
Right.
it's a holographic matrix that we exist in. So what is there to convert to?
Right.
It's like converting to air.
Right, right. It's almost like the idea that you need to convert somebody shows that you don't even really understand what's going on anyway, right?
Yeah, you don't understand the win.
Right.
So anyways, I don't want to go down that. But yeah, we're respectful of everybody's incarnation, so we don't pay
But
too much
that
attention to
ties in
that.
perfectly with what you were going to say about what we're here to do and how we're
Yes.
here to actually transform and bring this all about.
Yes. So in the canon, there is a Buddhist prophecy. Now, remember the 2012 end of the cycle of polarity or separation, and welcome in the new energy of unity consciousness. That was a prophecy that's been sitting around for a long time, for thousands of years, and we didn't know if it was going to be real or not, or how it's going to happen.
Right.
So, and I will touch on that as well, of how we got to where we are and where we're going. But that prophecy has come, and we're like, okay, so it's real, because Buddhism is an offshoot of the Vedas of Hinduism, which has been around, they speculate 7,000 or even more than 26,000 years based on the information in the Vedas of Hinduism. And they speculate because a lot of the local people in Southeast Asia and in Asia, they have a lot of oral history that they talk to people and to keep the oral history of their culture around. And they have the oral history of this mega flood that wiped out a very advanced, very spiritual civilization in the Pacific Ocean that they call Lemuria. And the remnants of those people went in according to the Buddhist folklore, because oral tradition over time gets wrapped up into art history, and gets wrapped up into becoming folklore. So, we still keep it. And that's why in the monasteries, you'll see the artwork of these folklore. And one of the artwork of this folklore is about the mega flood. And so the remnants of the mega flood, everybody who survived either got into boats and they went off to high ground, or they went to the high ground where there is usually a megalith or a pyramid in high ground, because those are the remnants of their advanced spiritual civilization. And for my other book that I'm working on, I talked to a lot of elders and chiefs of different tribes of the Polynesian islands. I was just following the Buddhist folklore of the mega flood from Lemuria, and according to the folklore, there should be a pyramid or a megalith on the top of all these high mountainous areas in the Polynesian islands. And I went down every single island, and I had 100% accuracy that every single island had a pyramid or a megalith. 100% accuracy on a Buddhist folklore about an ancient Lemurian civilization, and the remnants of those hang out in the Polynesian islands in Asia. And of course the spiritual traditions go into the Buddhist folklore. So very interesting material for that. So the reason why I bring that up is we get into another folklore that goes into the fifth dimension. And the Buddhist folklore is what I like to call the X-Men of the fifth dimension. Because we're going to start getting really sci-fi here, because a lot of the advanced studies in Buddhism get really wild and sci-fi-ish.
That's awesome.
So, I call them the X-Men in the fifth dimension. But basically, the concept is this: between 2010 to 2012, a lot of indigenous tribes, which Buddhists speculate, quote, quote, may have some links to Lemuria, they did their awakening ceremonies. So you had the chiefs of the Easter Islands, you had chiefs of the Mayans, you had Native American chiefs, and of course you had Buddhism. And we all did awakening ceremonies in our own way. And the awakening ceremonies of 2012 was not Armageddon that you would find out in the West, because you're disconnected from the original root of the philosophy. So you wouldn't know, but everybody else kept the tradition and the philosophy. So they knew some remnants. And so they waited a long time to close out an old energy of separation and welcome in a new energy of unity consciousness. And unity consciousness is a fifth dimensional energy. And in this fifth dimensional energy, as we get further into that parallel reality through shifting from one parallel version to another, as we get further and further into the higher energies, this is what you call your Mandela effects. Mm-hmm. Because we're all just shifting to better and better, hopefully better and better versions as we get further into the parallel fifth dimension. And Earth is doing that as well. And these higher, denser energies, everything moves faster, time moves faster, things kind of manifest faster. You'll think something, your friend will actually call you minute you think about it. You're like, oh, that's interesting. You'll be working on something, and then you'll get emails or things will come into your presence with exactly what you need next. These are the higher energies, because everything is moving up. And they found this in science with the Schumann resonance of Earth, and I studied 20 years of the science behind this, and I'm confident to say that something is happening with Earth. And what we know of is the Earth typically is 7.83 hertz. for a very long time. But then around 9/11, she went up to like 10 or 14, and then she's, kind of creeped up a little bit here and there. But then after 2012, she started jumping, and even more recently, she started jumping to 60, 80, and just big leaps. And when she makes these big leaps, what's happening is it's like the analogy of sailing. When you're sailing the same exact way, thinking nothing else of it, but then the energy changes and the wind picks up, and it's kind of slow at first, so you don't notice it. You're still doing the same thing in your life, but then all of a sudden you get this big whoosh, and you're like, whoa, what happened? And you maybe get some, vertigo, back aches, headaches, whatever, but the wind is picking up. And so you need to realize that the energy of the earth has changed. And so you got to bring your sails up, and you got to navigate appropriately. And a couple changes in knots will take you to a completely different part of the earth and have a completely different experience. And that is what's happening, is that, and it's been happening since the late 90s, but it is accelerating because she's taking her leaps. She's taking these big jumps further into the fifth dimension. And what's happening is all the gunk on the bottom of the sea, all your dirty deeds, all your things you swept underneath the rug, all of the things you don't want anybody to see, all the inner demons, all that stuff is coming up for you to resolve, so you can get to the good stuff and not create the bad stuff that is coming up for you to resolve in your life. It's your opportunity to clear out those dense gunk. And they found this in the scientific research when they were looking at the Schumann resonance, that, whenever she has her spikes, there was major wars and there were major renaissance every single time. So what happens is when Earth has her spikes and she raises her energy, what you are is going to come out. So if you're really negative, really manipulative, you have a lot of dense issues, repressed issues, that's going to come up for you to work on, and it's going to come up harder and harder so that you can finally work on it and then learn from it and then start building out of abundance. If you're already abundant and you're a very positive person and you always see silver linings and you already worked on your repressed issues, there's no gunk to come up and transmute. So is this going to bring up more of what you are, which is more opportunity, more abundance. So if you're a creative person, you're just going to just beam all this creativity and opportunities. And so you're going to have a different issue, which is, how do I balance all this stuff? So that's what's going on right now, is we're going further into the fifth dimension. So I'm going to return to Yeshua's story. The Buddhist
because that really says a lot about why we do have really completely different experiences, though, where somebody's like, oh, I had the roughest time, I had a horrible headache, I couldn't get out of bed or whatever, where the other person's like, oh, it just felt like I was so excited all weekend, I don't know what the deal was. So
I
it's
worked
like,
out, I did all these things, I did a whole gardening thing. I'm so proud of myself.
So depending on how those energies come in, it can really affect us in different ways. And if we have something that needs to sort of get brought up and dealt with, then it might not feel all that great to us. Although ultimately it is a good thing, because we're purging, aren't we? We're like getting it out.
We're cleaning out. It's like the analogy of a stream, when the stream is changing its currents to much faster currents, all of the gunk on the bottom, the sediments on the bottom of the stream will come up, every single one of them, and eventually they all come up and get transmuted, and then the stream is clean and you can see all the way to the bottom. It's pristine. And you need that, the universe is trying to clean up your life. It needs you to do your work so that it can be a nice clean stream of just positivity and abundance. And the fifth dimension is all about that, because it's just going to amplify what you are. So if everything's manifesting faster, you don't want to create your worst fears.
No.
Okay, so if you're afraid of, demons, devils, my tax evasion is going to come after me, guess what? It is, because you got to resolve that. You got to address that. So the Vatican is having a great time with things roosting, all the exorcism that's coming up, because people are coming into their awakening and ascension, and they have these abilities to create out of their worst fears. So they are creating these experiences. So everything's coming back to roost.
They're using the tools against themselves instead of for themselves.
Yes. And you can use it negatively, or you can do the opposite and use the tools to create abundance and love and positivity and joy in your life, however you want it, whatever that is to you. So, there's like the yin yang, there's two ways to see it and use it. So, anyways, the prophecy of the people of the fifth dimension, they worked on their issues, and as these higher energies get to take us further and further into the fifth dimension, they will start having more awakenings and more of the deeper awakenings, because it's a process, and they will start working on their ascension up to the higher levels of Buddhahood or Bodhisattvahood, or finally decide to be done with the game, whatever they want to do. But they're going to raise their energy up to these higher dimensions. And as you work on this work, and Buddhism knows this, as you work on this work of ascension and awakening, and changing your reality within your consciousness, your six senses will start coming into play. And many people are born with six senses. Some may know of it, some maybe have a tingling of it. It's just like being born. Some people are born to run faster than others. Some people are born to jump higher than others. Okay, it doesn't mean that you're better or worse if you have it, don't have it. It just means that you have this ability that you brought with you into this incarnation. But because these are spiritual skill sets, and as you work on your spirituality and you perfect your Merkabah, your Christ consciousness, your six senses will start activating, and in these higher energies, they will amplify. Remember, Earth is an amplifier.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to work on your fear that these are the works of the devil, because you're going to create your worst experience. So you need to understand them so you can transmute them and live with your abilities positively.
And that's how creating your own reality works, right?
Yeah. So going into the prophecy, the Buddhist prophecy that, we waited a long time for 2012, and that did happen. So, that's interesting. So we're like, how much of this is actually true?
Right.
Which is the thing I always do. Like, how much of this Lemurian folklore is actually true?
Right.
So, anyways, the prophecy is that the people of the fifth dimension are higher frequency resonant people. Dr. Hawkins called them an offshoot of humanity, and he called them Homo spiritus. It's very highly evolved, very spiritual societies. They all have activated six senses. They all know about the infinite game and how to be conscious creators. And they're using this energy and creating abundance and a beautiful, what you would call heaven on earth or golden age of humanity. And because they are such advanced level of Merkabahs and consciousness, they are at the frequency to communicate with other beings of higher dimensions of the multiverse, of different universes that exist in higher energy into the fifth dimension. So we become intergalactic and interstellar. The reason why we're not is because many of humanity is not at that frequency yet. So you have people of the fifth dimension that all have six senses that are highly activated and honed in on. So it's kind of like the all-star of the Olympics, but you have a whole world like this in the fifth dimension. That's why I call them the X-Men of the fifth dimension. I told you we're going to go into sci-fi.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So the X-Men of the fifth dimension, one of the things that the prophecy does, or the belief is that this globe with this crystalline consciousness, this Christ fifth dimensional consciousness. In Buddhism, the return of Maitreya, which is our word for Christ as well, or the return of Christ, is not the return of a man. I just explained the definition of what the word Christ.
Mm-hmm.
It's a consciousness. It's the return of Christ's consciousness within humanity.
Mm-hmm.
They all have reached their awakening ascension, and they reach up to the fifth dimensional level of Christ, of crystalline consciousness, where their Merkabah is at that high 5D level. In my book, Buddhist Mandalas, Metatron's cube goes over that crystalline consciousness of activating your Merkabah to that level. So it's the return of Christ consciousness. And one of the things that these quote, quote, X-Men of the fifth dimension do is with all of their six senses, whether they're flying or levitating or, using teleportation to get there, whatever that they do, they go to the tomb of Yeshua and they pay their respects. And that completes the story of Yeshua ben Yosef.
That's awesome. Yeah, he's my hero, and I don't have a problem with it because I've already sort of taken all the deep religious. I've taken all the religion from what he actually said, and I've read the Bible dozens of times because I've come across something like, wait a minute, did Jesus ever tell us to worship him? So then I read the whole Bible again, or at least the New Testament if it was relating with Jesus. And I'm like, wait, he never said that. Like, wouldn't he have said that if he wanted us to do it? And then, I did the same thing with like him being our like sort of blood sacrifice for our sins. I'm like, well, surely he would have said that if that's how it works. Like, he just takes it all on himself, like the church teaches or whatever. And I couldn't find anything like that. The closest thing was him doing communion and he said, do this in remembrance of me. But he never said. They asked him how to get to heaven. He'd say something like, "Sell everything you have and follow me. I'll show you how to do it." It was.
I'll show you how to have your awakening and your ascension and be
Right,
5D. I'll show you how to be
right.
Christ consciousness
Now I'm going to do
yourself.
it all for you, and you don't have to do anything. You just sit back and relax. No, it was like,
You
you
got to
know,
do the work.
right? Yeah, yeah.
You
Come
got to,
follow me.
yeah, yeah. I'll show you how to get there,
Yeah.
yeah, not everybody can go into the monastic schools. Not I get it. So but yeah, exactly. So that's the story of Yeshua ben Yosef. The story of him till 12 from the Bible. Now the story through multiple religious canon of
Yeah.
this figure that existed, um from 13 to 28, and then you have the Bible stories that pick up from a time frame until the crucifixion. And now you heard from the crucifixion until death. Now you
That's
have the
awesome.
full story.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's all about empowering yourself and getting to that higher energy and really having a good experience and creating a life of joy and wonder for yourself and for the people that you love. It's really what it's
Absolutely.
all about. We're souls having a human experience, and we forget that we're souls having a human experience. So we get caught up in our own third dimensional games, and we get so caught up in our stories and our roles that we forget that we're souls having a human experience. And you can stop playing these games anytime you want. You can play other games. There's a lot of different games and puzzles in the game board. You don't have to play every single, you know, shooting, robbery, killing game out there. You can play the fun other, positive games too. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of choices out there, and none of it is right or wrong. It's just what do you find entertaining, amusing. So, and the other thing that people forget is that the universal one mind, that oversoul is inside everyone.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can acknowledge it and create from within it, or you cannot acknowledge it and continue to spin your wheels. I'd like a smooth ride.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like a
And,
smooth
and
ride.
and that's the beauty of it. It's like where everything else there's like class and you have to have so much money to have access to this. It's like the one thing that is so even across the playing field. It doesn't matter how much money you have. That connection with the divine is freely available to every single person in equal amounts, and it's really up to you whether you want to tap into it or not. And there's
Hmm.
nothing holding us back. And
Yeah.
that's the beauty of this whole thing. That's why I think Jesus said it's like easier for a rich man to go through an eye of a needle because he's got all this other stuff he's concerned with. That why worry about his spiritual life when he's like sipping our martinis on the beach, right?
Yeah,
So
because you understand the only thing you take with you is your experiences and your spiritual involvement, like your Merkabah, because your Merkabah. Here's the thing: your Merkabah is your access to multiple realities,
mhm,
to explore the multiverse and to many, many more other games within the infinite game. So when you go to the spirit world, if you don't want to get reabsorbed quite yet with the
mhm.
infinite void of the oversoul, then you can work with your life planner like myself. Hi. my boring life planner. I'm like, well, what do you want to experience? What kind of excursions do you want to do? Okay. You want to do Earth again? No. Oh, okay. You want to be a Andromedan? Okay. Blue people. All right. All right. Well, what do you want to do in that society? What kind of excursions do you want? Okay. You want to be an explorer? Okay. Whatever. So, and that's really what souls do in the spirit world is they go through the Akasha record and they read all these wonderful stories of like, okay, let's see how Yeshua Ben Yosef, what was his life? Oh, okay. Let me read Kuan Yin's story. Oh, I like that too. Okay. Let me read Buddha's story. Okay. Let me read Moses' story. Okay. All right. I think I got an idea on how I want to transmute a dense reality and help people out and kind of work on, this and that. So those are the journeys, but not everybody incarnates to do that. Some people incarnate to just have fun and experience what a planet can offer, what a reality can offer.
Just the regular old 3D life with a job and just.
Yeah, yeah. I want
Hey,
to
I don't want to
know.
wake up anybody. I just want to go to my job at McDonald's or whatever.
Yeah, maybe, yeah,
Which is
and I'm
okay. I'm not
it's
downing
totally
anybody.
okay.
I'm
My
totally.
little, yeah, my I have a family member, and her joy of life is just to be able to have a roof in her, just to have her fun roommates that she loves their company, have a nice boyfriend, and then smoke a bowl every day. And that's her joy. That's her joy. She is happy and content as a clam. And that's fine. She's not interested in getting her master's degree or writing books or awakening people. She's just like, I'm just going to, this is how I want to play the Matrix and I'm having fun. And that's what she wants. And that's perfectly fine. So not everybody's happiness is the same. So there's a lot of different games in the puzzle piece, but let's switch gears and talk about star seeds because there's a lot of star seeds that come into this reality. And like I already explained earlier what Toku children are in Buddhism. It's just a very
Hmm.
ancient term for the new terms that are very common in the space that Dolores Cannon popularized, which is star seeds, indigo, crystal children, all that. We wrap it all in the same as Toku children. And basically, I'm going to kind of give some examples of what is going on right now. So, a lot of ancient, very advanced souls are incarnating on Earth right now to help Earth ascend into the fifth dimension, further into the fifth dimension. And meditation research has already proven this that 1% of humanity in these higher energies, these higher gamma wave frequencies, will affect 99% of the population positively. So the 99% are trying to figure out the 3D problems because for whatever reason they're compelled to work it out because of that 1% of humanity that's, meditating and trying to, be positive and trying to build the fifth dimension, trying to get out of the way of everybody else so that, when everybody else figures out their 3D issues, there's stuff that's been built and they're like, oh, thank you for making this. I'm really enjoying this sanctuary. I really needed that. It's like, you're welcome. So nobody's judging it. Everybody's playing their part in the puzzle and they're putting it together. And, it's like going into the fifth dimension is very much like giving birth. It's messy and it's scary at the same time. So I mean, you can study all you want, and you go to your Lamaze class and prepare all you want, which is what we are doing in this community. We're preparing, you know, meditating, we're doing all these things, but then you go through the actual process, and it's still kind of, painful and stressful, a little bit anxiety. So it's much like birth that we're going through, and it's a process. You got to go down the canal. So what I get is one of the things that I do is I do quantum healing hypnosis technique, which is a hypnotherapy developed by Dolores Cannon. And she spent 40 years or so perfecting this and writing a lot of books, which are wonderful. And I came across her work when I was in the 20 years of studying different metaphysical research in the West. I came across her work as a energy healing modality, and I'm familiar with the stuff in the East that was created by many monks. But in the West, there were new modalities, and I researched her modality, and I loved her modality, so I became a practitioner of QHHT here in the Seattle area. Now, the thing is that um, I get clients that reach out to me, and I would do a session, and what I continually get are toku people. That's all I ever get. So one client after another, I'm talking to the oversoul inside my clients, talking out about their journey, what is their issue with their wheel of dharma. So it provides me the opportunity to talk about all these metaphysical topics in Buddhism and actually apply it. So I love that. So I talked to the oversoul about, what is this client's, you know, what are their abundance blocks that's holding down their energy to their awakening or further into their awakening? What can they do to help get deeper into their awakening and their ascension? And so we go over those issues. And then what's always revealed typically is their life, their other lives as star seeds in the spirit, beings in the spirit world, and what their job was and why they came here at this time and what they came here to do during the ascension process of Earth. Or they were a star seed where they were a alien soul from another galaxy or universe, and they came into this incarnation at this time to help change the game from within the game. Okay, because the prime directive is a real thing. You can't just boss people around and change it for them, because the universe is not going to tell you what to do or how to do it, because otherwise there will be no point creating you if it's just going to make decisions for you. It's no fun for the universe because it wants to see you grow and experience itself through your firsthand experience and your joys and your triumphs. So it just waits and waits for you to get your awakening and ascension, and kind of work through these steps. So these star seeds typically come in, and this is what is revealed in the sessions. And I'll give you a couple examples of what their fifth dimensional job is and kind of how this all translates. Okay. And you probably have quite a bit of these stories in BQH, I think that you do.
Right.
Okay. So I'll tell you a couple, and they're starting to sound a lot alike. All right. So, my starseed clients, they typically, like like I said, they're ambassadors to other alien planets. Okay, they sent one of their own to incarnate on Earth to help with ascension and awakening. And when Earth people get to the higher frequencies, into the fifth dimension, they're going to finally get to the level where they can communicate and see and communicate with these other beings that are already there. All right, we kind of have to get there. And when we finally get there, one of them that incarnated as one of us is going to be the ambassador. So this is how they become the ambassadors. So I had a client who reached out to me and said, I have this weird dialect. It sounds like gibberish. I've been saying it my whole life. I think it's a light language. And they come from a very religious background, so they just kind of push it aside. But it's really coming up heavy at this time. They don't know why, because of higher energies. And what is revealed is that there are starseed, and this foreign light language, this alien dialect, is actually a real alien language. And when they need to have their awakening and ascension to get to the fifth dimension, and when they get to the fifth dimension with all the people of the fifth dimension, when we make contact with that specific alien species, this person, this human person that's been speaking this weird alien dialect that sounds like gibberish, is actually the translator who's going to communicate between the Earth people and that alien civilization, because they know the language. Okay, so that's one example. And so she's like, oh, okay. So one of the recommendations is to write this down into your diary or book so that it's documented in case it doesn't happen in your lifetime. There'll be record for your descendants to pull it up. Grandma wrote this light language. And I think it pertains to this specific alien species. So there's one of the examples. Another example is a lot of them come in with kind of what I call caretaker jobs. So I'll give you an example of another client that came in for QHHT. And she's already awakened and a very old soul. And she said, okay, so I know I'm a star seed. I've had some weird nuances. I've had some weird kind of alien type of episodes, but I really need direction in my life in terms of what can I do with my business. And so what was revealed to her was obviously her starseed origins, and the oversoul gave very, very good recommendations. So what this person and her husband did is they bought at a very affordable price this 5-acre property north of where I live here in Seattle. And what is very special about this property that was revealed, because they think it's really high energy and it's a healing place and they love it, but what is revealed is that the oversoul said that there is a cavern of 15 feet tall crystals 100 feet below their property, a very huge crystal cavern that's healing. That's why you feel that healing. So everybody always comes to your house and wants to hang out in your yard because it's a healing space. And all those fairy rings, because on this property is a lot of dense woods, all around the property you will see blue mushrooms that form in a perfect circle, and that's what they call fairy rings, or white flowers that grow in a perfect circle. And so there are fairy rings that all over the property. And the other thing that's interesting about the property is as you walk through the nature of the property, the trail that they made, you will see trees and branches that form in a circle, like a vortex. Okay. And they just kind of grow around the energy in this circle all around the property. And it's in Washington. I'm not going to tell you yet because they're working on building it. Um, but yeah, it's funny because they were asking, they're like, what is it about this property? We noticed all these weird nuances, and we swear we heard Bigfoot growling or something. And we were, when we were out in the woods one time, and they were like, what is the deal with this property? And this is what is revealed about this property. And the other thing that's revealed about this property is that Bigfoot does go through their property. But Bigfoot is a fifth dimensional being. That's why you typically don't see them, because they're invisible to the third dimensional eye. So, but they are 5D, so sometimes they tune in when he comes through. And what is revealed to them is that they are star seeds. They incarnated here on Earth at the time of the ascension into the fifth dimension because they are to take care of this special property and be good stewards of the earth and take care of it so it doesn't get damaged or over built and destroyed by population expansion in that area, because it's a very special property. So there need to be good caretakers and protect the crystal cavern, protect the fairies, protect Bigfoot. However, they're like, well, then how are we going to make a living? How are we going to make a living? But because they do yoga, they have a yoga studio. So what the oversoul suggested and what the angels suggested in QHHT was that they need to turn it into like a retreat space or a bed and breakfast. Maybe use sacred geometry domes so that it's unique and it has a nice high energy. Sacred geometry domes for the different bed and breakfasts, and provide this retreat, like a meditation retreat or an art retreat or day workshops, and provide all these different excursions so people can come and enjoy the healing crystal land and the healings of the fairies and enjoy this magical space when they come to a meditation retreat or a couples retreat or a yoga retreat or whatever, and then do these other extracurricular activities that this family offers, because they do organic growing as well. So they would have a 3-course organic meal that they can enjoy as well. So this is how they're going to be able to live off the land and take care of themselves and fulfill their contract to be good stewards of the earth and take care of this precious land. And when they're done making this business venture successful, more of these special lands will be presented to them to start this in other states. And they're like, we had somebody who wanted to give us land in Montana just give it to us. Just take care of this land. And we have somebody in Wyoming just wants to give us this land to just take care of it. So they don't want to sell. They just want you to just take care of it and do whatever you want. So that made sense to them that, oh, now we see how this fits in. This is fifth dimensional jobs, 5D jobs. How do you live with Gaia in a peaceful way and still prosper? So those are typically the type of clients I get. And then I get another type of client, again, who are starseeds. And they typically come in as in IT or creative jobs. And in their job, what they do is whether they write or whether they create digital material or video games, basically what they're doing with presenting this metaphysical material and knowledge in the games that they create or the things that they do is they are normalizing 5D tech and metaphysics, so that when we get to the point in our reality that we're creating airport out of portals, it's not going to freak us out. It's just going to be like, oh yeah, I'm just going to go to portal 3 and go to the Andromeda constellation to go visit my grandkids, and then maybe I'll go to portal 5 and go to Paris and go see that. It's just going to be normal every day. It's not going to be so magical. So they are creating that information to kind of tease us in what this would look like, so that when it comes to be real, it's normal. So like I'll give you a great example. My daughter watches this cartoon called Zig and Sharky. And it's just this mermaid and this shark and their friends, and all they do is run through portals all day long. And my daughter's like, honey, Mom, why can't we just go through a portal? Why do we go to the airport? Like, because the portals haven't been made yet. They're on their way. They haven't been made yet. So anyways, these are the types of clients that I get through my QHHT sessions who are coming going, I need to deal with my 3D wheel of Dharma issues. I need to work on furthering my awakening and ascension process. And how do I live with these fifth dimensional energies so that I prosper in the fifth dimension? And this is usually what comes out. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is that what you get in your BQH sessions as well? What do you get? I want. Yeah. 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 Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ride the wave. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, it's really good advice. Kind of ride through the wave that's going on right now. Just kind of ride the wave, and eventually we'll settle. Our Mandela effects will still maybe have our personal Mandela effects here and there, but eventually we get to a point in our lifetime, because it's a process, in our lifetime, that we get to such a high energy level that our Mandela effects kind of subside, because we kind of like have gotten to a resonance with the earth.
They were saying they can't hear me. I was just saying that I get that you're right where you're supposed to be, doing what you're supposed to be doing, and not to worry. So that was
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. Is there any questions in the chats that came up, or
Let's see.
answer?
That's funny. No, no questions.
Okay. Yeah, because sometimes I read through it and I'm like, oh, okay, well, then maybe we answered that in the other one. But let me tell you guys something really quick before we wrap it up, because my babies are going to be waking up and my second job is going to start knocking in the door.
Oh, no problem, no problem.
But as you get into your awakening ascension further, okay, you're going to be having personal Mandela effects, and it's totally fine. And if you aren't not already having your personal Mandela effects beyond local changing and those kind of commercial changes, where like you may be, because I talk about my personal Mandela effects quite often, and talking about it normalizes it because then it's not so taboo.
Right.
Okay. But if you like, I've had somebody where I went to their funeral and there they are. So I'm like, that's good. I must have lived into a really good reality.
Yeah, but that is a trip, isn't it? That's like where you know
Yeah.
somebody died and then they're back again, and it's like, wait a minute, Uncle Bill died like 3 years ago. He's back again.
I know, I know. So if you're gonna have your personal Mandela effects, it's okay. It's okay.
And
You're gonna come.
check your photo albums, you guys, because that's another thing I've heard about people. Like, they're like, we got in-laws that took this vacation together. We got pictures of this vacation. This vacation would have never happened. They would have never gone anywhere on a vacation
Yeah,
together. You know?
yeah, it's funny. It's funny. I mean, when you start looking at your own personal Mandela effects, I think it's even more of a trip and more amusing than the commercial stuff, which I like the commercial stuff too.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
the personal ones are my favorite. But anyways, the thing I wanted to kind of leave the audience with is when you go through your awakening and ascension process, and it is a process, and you're going to travel between different parallel realities and explore different parallel realities. And like I always say, there's no right or wrong way to explore parallel realities, and everybody's going to be where they're supposed to be because you're going to get the journey you're supposed to get.
Right.
Um, but you're going to come into your six senses, and some of the six senses might spook you out. So I really recommend going to a QHHT practitioner and talking to the oversoul directly for help and assistance and direction, because I get these a lot from parents that reach out to me. And I don't regress anybody under 18 for that purpose, because it's not allowed, but I can ask questions and answer questions and get directions from the oversoul and the guides and the angels about their children who
Mm-hmm.
have unusual sixth senses,
Mm-hmm.
and make sense, and how to give them some direction to kind of how to live and work with that. Um, and some of these six senses are teleportation, and actually jumping parallel realities is teleportation, because you're teleporting from one
Mm-hmm.
reality to another. The other thing is you can teleport timelines as well. So you might start having Mandela effects where you watch a comedy show that, like, I watch my news through comedy because that's how I could take the bad news bears. And sometimes I'll like, oh, I already saw this a couple of days ago. And my husband will be like, no, that just published a minute ago. And I'll tell him exactly what's happening. And he's like, okay, well, let's watch it. And it's exactly what I said was going to happen. And so, that's an example of teleportation,
Yeah.
kind of time jumping.
Right.
Or the other thing is geolocation. As we get into these higher energies, you people who are in this space and working on this, your spiritual work, will start seeing this stuff. So it might spook you out. Some full disclosure here. And Buddhists know this because many Buddhist monks, when they get into some of this stuff, since this is all they do all day, they will start honing in on the six senses and
Right.
and really perfecting it. But we have lives, we have jobs and kids and other things, so you can't spend all day. But it's good to know.
Yeah.
So
Another one is bilocating. I don't know if that's
biolocating, yep,
yeah, I don't know if that's
yep.
come up for you, but yeah,
Oh,
that's
my dog that I used to have, he would bark in the middle of the night outside and be like, to be let in, and we're like, how'd you get out here? The doors are all still closed. And he did it a couple times, so we eventually said stop. We put him in timeout. I said stop going outside because you're waking everybody up to open the door for you. So my dog does it. Dogs do it sometimes too. Another one is time manipulation, and that is like if it takes you an hour in rush hour traffic to get to somewhere, and the same time, it all of a sudden you're able to get there in 15 minutes. I've done that
right.
a couple times,
Yeah.
and I think many of you guys may have as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's time manipulation.
Yeah.
So you play with that. That's always fun during rush hour traffic. I love that one. Conscious manifesting is a common one for people in the fifth dimensional energies, and that's thinking something and then it happens. Like thinking, oh, I think I'm gonna call my girlfriend and talk about blah blah, and then she calls you.
Yeah.
Okay, that's conscious manifesting, kind of synchronicities with
Yeah,
the.
now to add to that, what I've been seeing now is sort of like I want to call it like accidental
Mm,
manifestation. So
hmm
we've done this like in a negative way so many times, you know. But it's like say you're on the way to work, and you know if this street had an exit off the highway, life would be so much easier. I could exit, I could be right at my job, and then the next thing you know, they're like talking about putting a ramp in there. You know what I mean?
hmm
You never
hmm
called the building planners or the city or anything, but
Yeah,
you know they just did it for you. So it was kind of accidentally happened. You wished for something, and then all of a sudden you see they're doing it, and it's like, wow, did I do that? But it's
yeah.
happening over and over again for many of us. You
Yes,
know?
yes. That's what they call conscious manifesting. But what I would call that is that's also an example of teleportation, jumping to another reality that already exists, that has
Right,
that ramp made.
right,
But for you, it's a smooth transition.
right.
You know, so
Yeah.
that's one thing, kind of quote quote conscious manifesting. Another one is telekinesis,
Mm-hmm.
matter manipulation. So they actually have workshops if you want to test out your ability to bend spoons. They have those workshops. They're fun workshops where they train you how to use your consciousness to bend a spoon in the matrix. And you know
I
they have
love that. Yeah.
they they have one in Oregon. The guy that wrote Conversations with God, the 3 book series, he actually used to, I'm not sure if he still does, do one of those workshops, or spoon bending workshop. But some examples of telekinesis is kind of like moving a pen across the room, or sometimes I've had to stop myself after a while on this one because I don't really get into my 6 senses. They really are, for me, the distraction.
Right, right.
So you know, like I would be thinking, I think I'm gonna go and get some ice cream, and then all of a sudden the garage door will open up. Go get your ice cream. I'm like, no,
Right.
I was just thinking I wanted ice cream.
Or your
I'm not
husband
too,
comes in with it. I thought you might
yeah,
want some ice cream. You're like, oh my
I'm not
gosh, I
that
didn't mean to
good.
manifest it.
You're better
Right.
than you're better. You're better. I'm not that good. You're pretty better than I am, because I'm like, I think I want to get some ice cream. And the garage door opens up, but then I'm like, no, I just thought I wanted to get some ice cream, but I'm too lazy to get off my butt and go in the car and go get ice cream. But in
That's a
these
good
higher,
thing sometimes, though.
yeah, but in these higher dimensional energies, things manifest so much faster. And if you're in these higher frequencies, they manifest faster for you. So again, we have to be mindful what we think and feel, because it will come out. And so again, don't create out your fears. But
Mhm.
and then I had to stop myself when I'm like, I think I'm going to want some ice cream. I just go and get an ice cube. I have to stop myself because I don't want to keep walking downstairs to close the garage doors. I'm too lazy for that. Another one is very common is channeling channeling, kind of having connection with your angels and your guides and so
Yeah.
forth. They can only tell you only so much until you're ready, so they can kind of spoon feed you a little bit.
Hmm. But they
I
tell
was
you what you need to know. What I've been noticing, they tell you what you need to know. Maybe not what you want to know the whole thing, you know, but they tell you what you need to know as you need to know it.
Yeah,
And
spoon feed you. I
yeah,
had a conversation with a gal very recently, and she, you know, she's very awakened and so forth. But the concept of Mandela effects and parallel realities just blew her mind. It was so new, and she was really challenged by it because it made her question her worldview.
oh yeah,
And so I was like, "Well, you must be early in your awakening. All right, don't worry, we're around."
right.
So just play with it. But but yeah, so they'll, if you do channeling, they'll feed you in spoonfuls a little bit, depending on kind of gauge.
Right.
So but channeling, telepathy, like this thing.
Telepathy was another one I was going to say that's been happening a lot more lately.
Oh, it's gonna happen a lot more as we get
Oh,
into the
it's
fifth
been
dimensional.
crazy. It's like I don't know how many times I'm talking to somebody and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I was just thinking that." And I'm like, "Why is this happening more?" It has to be telepathy.
It's
So
telepathy.
for me it's like did I send that to them? Did I hear them thinking about it? Who thought of it first? So I'm still at those very early stages where I don't even know who thought of it first at this point. I just know
Yeah.
that there was some sort of communication going on because we both knew out of the clear blue what we were going to talk about or, you
Oh,
know, the
yeah,
same thought.
telepathy. I'm just like, can you close your thoughts, please?
Right.
Broadcast unknowingly.
Right. And sometimes you can spot it. It'd be so out of the blue. You're like, I know I didn't think about that. Are you
Yeah,
thinking about blah, blah, blah? Yeah.
my husband's so used to it. He'll just kind of walk downstairs. I'm like, I know you want to go to Dairy Queen. You want this and this and this and this. Okay, I'll do it in like an hour after my meeting. He's like, oh, that's exactly. Thank you. But he's like, okay. Or he'll just be like, hey, I was like, yeah, do this. And he's like, yeah, yeah. What do you think about that? Or he'll come to me and he'd be like, hey, what did you think about that? I was like, yes, let's have that for dinner. Because we're in the same wavelength. But like,
I wanted to mention before, because I think people came in here that weren't here earlier.
oh yeah.
You're giving out your book, your newest one, until July 1st.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. So here's the book.
It's beautiful. Buddhist
It's called
mandalas.
yeah, it's called Buddhist Mandalas. Explore parallel realities with sacred geometry, and it's kind of a scientific book showing the science behind your Merkabah
Love that
that everybody
artwork too.
has. Yeah, and of course, the back is the picture of my son and myself. I had to share it. But
Because you had
anyways,
you and your daughter on the other one.
I have my
Right.
daughter on my other Buddhism book, so they take turns.
Okay,
Um,
so I just wanted to bring that up so you guys can go get that for free until July 1st, the ebook version of that. If you want that beautiful artwork on the hardcover copy, you can actually order it from the link below. It's the Amazon authors page link. It's the very top link. But the reason I wanted to get that out of the way is because someone's asking which book should they read first if they wanted to purchase one of your books. So that
let's
aside,
see. Okay, you know what? If you want, so just really quick with the Amazon, like when you go to Amazon and you look up Von Galt, Vongalt, just click on the author's name, and that will pull up the author's page of all their books. And you can find the book that way. But like again, until July 1st, I'm doing that Amazon 5-day giveaway for the ebook to help raise its ranking and also to help raise consciousness. And I'm actually also advertising on Facebook. So maybe the next time we do this, let's see where in the world most of these downloads and the interest is coming from. Because it's very fascinating to see who is responding to the material. Like who wants to learn about their Merkabah?
yeah, and it's really helpful when you guys read the book to actually get on there and give her a review so other
Oh,
people
yes,
know
please.
that helps to rate it and give her a review. That way, other people coming along will say, "Hey,
Yes.
I'm going to read it and get your input on it." So I
Yes.
always try to get people to do that, and
Oh,
especially if she's giving it to you for free, it doesn't take but a minute to write a quick
yes,
review.
please. I
That
so
helps out.
appreciate it. You never know if your review is going to affect somebody to get the book, and it's going to change their life, and you just had a hand in it.
Right.
So, and that happens as well. So, between the two books, between Buddhist Mandalas, Explore Parallel Realities
Mm-hmm.
with Sacred Geometry, and between Buddhist Guide to Manifest Parallel Realities, they both do. This one is more about the essential building blocks of addressing your abundance blocks and your third dimensional issues.
Mm-hmm.
It's lowering down your energy from getting into that fifth dimensional space
Mm-hmm.
of a higher Merkabah. And so if you have a lot of what I call 3D dramas to resolve, like you maybe have some repressed issues with your mom, your dad, your sister, your ex-husband, whatever, those kind of things, like
Mm-hmm.
that triggers in your life,
Yeah.
then you still have something that is holding down your energy. And so you don't want that to come up in the higher energies to resolve in a bad way. So
Right.
if you are having that and you're still working on your wheel of Dharma, I recommend the Buddhist Guide to Manifest Parallel Realities because that goes over how to use the basic principles of the Four Noble Truths and Eightfold Paths to address your abundance blocks or your dense energies. The other one is to learn about your true light body, your Merkabah. And so this one, Buddhist Mandalas, this one is really good because when you study sacred geometry, like Ezekiel did in the Bible or Metatron, when you study sacred geometry, you actually it 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 is a tool as well that helps you rewire your consciousness to a fifth dimensional level. So it's kind of like when you're watching symbols or things on TV, it generates a certain emotion to you
Mm-hmm.
or it generates certain knowledge. Well, when you're studying sacred geometry, it also generates knowledge about your Merkabah and about consciousness as well. So it's kind of like a visual tool that helps you kind of get into those higher frequencies. So both are good, and there's really no end game, so you can read them at different times. And I have other ones that I just haven't got around to doing yet, but more will come down the road. I'm only 40, almost 41 years old, so there'll be plenty more. That's plenty of stuff for you to work on for a while. But let's finish really quick because I can hear the kids freaking out, and I need to relieve my husband. He's very fifth dimensional, but he's also needs help.
Okay.
Channeling, telepathy, precognition, and being empathetic. And here's the thing: like a lot of empaths, kind of like Deanna Troi from Star Trek, well, they won't know if the way they feel about something is actually their own or somebody else's that they're feeling.
Right.
So that could be a little bit confusing. So kind of have to work. I mean, it's just like if you can run fast, how do you focus on your ability, and how do you use it in the right time and place without hurting or taking advantage of somebody?
Exactly.
So it's just another sense. And the thing with your sixth senses and your spiritual gifts is, if you use it to manipulate and hurt people, you're going to lose it anyways, because it's a higher energy vibration and skill. And if you're not doing higher energy integrous things with it, it's going to lose its power.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so just be conscious of that. So empathetic, astral projection. You can go into the lower realms, but those lost souls have been playing those games for a very long time, and they'll suck up all your time. The higher stuff is more fun. The remote viewing is another ability that some people will automatically have. So these are more kind of like in the channeling mind space. The other thing is invisibility, where people don't see you walking towards them, and all of a sudden you have to touch them. They'll be like, oh my God, where were you? I was waving and walking straight to you the whole time, but you're in such a high frequency that sometimes people don't see you until you physically like touch them or talk to them. Then they like tune into you. So you may see some of that. And as we get to these higher energies, if you do come into that ability, that's an interesting one. Another one, it's very, very new, and it is the ability to levitate or flight. Okay, very small amounts of people will have this ability. A couple Buddhist monks will work on levitation ability. A lot of it is about sound frequency and getting to their harmonics to kind of be light enough for that. The other one is kind of X-ray vision, like kind of being able, like dogs do this, where they can kind of feel where your cancer tumor is.
Right.
That kind of stuff.
Right.
And then weather manipulation, like going, oh no, it's not going to rain today, it's going to be sunny, and it becomes sunny for the funeral.
Right.
Saying that. And then of course you have this, the superhuman strength, and you have of course the energy healing. So many different energy healing modalities out there. Buddhism has a wide variety of energy healing modalities, and in the West now with QHHT and all these other things, there's so many different ways to do energy healing. So I want to leave your audience with a quick energy healing tip that they could do. Perfect. And they can practice with, because energy healing is is one of the basics that we teach in our schools. So so let's say you have a cat or a dog that's in pain, that's really hurting. I had a friend call me freaking out because her cat is dying, and she knows their cat is dying, and she's just feeble. And so she said, come do your thing. I said, okay, fine, I'll come do the thing. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to come do my thing only because you're on the way to my grocery store. So I'm going to come do the thing. So what you do, remember, the universe is in everybody. It's a stream of consciousness. Is you just put your hand on the animal that is suffering. You put the hand on the animal that's suffering. And just like the meditation I taught, the really quick meditation technique I taught in the last session, you empty your mind. So you think about what you're thinking, and your mind can't think two things at the same time. So you think about what you're thinking, and that will wipe out what you're thinking. So you're a blank slate. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So, okay, because you're freezing up on me. So anyways, so you're a blank slate. So think about what you're thinking, and you're a blank slate. And when you're that blank slate, insert because now you're in that field with the universe. Think this thought. Think, you are me and I am you, and we're healthy. We're completely fine. And think of the most loving image to you. So, you have my hand on the dying cat, and the image I have is of its owner petting them and just giving them love, and that's the image. And then all of a sudden the cat started getting up. It was like, I want to get out of here. I started clawing to get up, and this thing was feeble and like almost dying 2 seconds ago. I decided to get up and like, you get off me, stop scratching. But that's a quick energy healing technique that you could do on any pet that is really struggling or maybe possibly passing away. So do the hand and the meditation energy healing, and that will help work as well. So
Awesome.
Practice with that, and then as these energies come up, don't freak out when you start coming into your sixth senses, or your existing sixth sense starts amplifying, because you're in this advanced state of awakening and ascension.
That's awesome. Exciting. I guess you got to go do your mother thing, and we're going to have you back real soon.
Yeah. Let's put it on the calendar.
Yeah, definitely. We'll do that as soon as we go off the air. Thank you guys. Make sure you go get that book. You've only got a couple of days, July 1st.
July 1st. Oh, I really wanted to, before I forget, I always wanted to do my parting message that I get from the Oversoul in my hypnosis sessions.
Sure.
So in every single session, I always get the same message from the Oversoul. So I put it into these words that I want to leave any audience that may have not heard it before with. So the Oversoul says the same thing. And basically it says that you've always been enough. Use the gifts and the resources all around you to create the life that you want to experience. A life full of joy and love. And the spirit world will nudge you through synchronicity. You could do it. So that's the parting message from the Oversoul from my clients.
That's a perfect message. And it's a constant stream. The more I look for it, the more I see signs all around. It's like, it's there's never a limit to it, and they can come in all sorts of ways. So keep your eyes open, you guys.
Yeah, we're going to a whole new reality of Homo Spiritus. So it will be funny.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Vaughn, and we'll have you back really soon. Lots of love, light, and unity to each and every one of you guys. Peace. Be sure to check out the website at uotf.net. There you will find the live stream schedule displayed in your local time right there on the front page. Below that, you'll find links to take the Beyond Quantum Healing course at a discounted rate, purchase our book, Mandela Effect, Friend or Foe, in paperback or ebook, or to contact me to schedule a BQH session. At the top of the site, you'll find links to help support the work I do, access the free private forum where you can discuss organizing get-togethers in your area, Mandela Effects, and more. Thank you all so much for being here.